Welcome back to Finance for Firefighters. Today we're going to talk about T-bills and CDs. So if you have cash sitting in a savings account earning nothing, there is a solution to it. T-bills and CDs are a safe, effective, easy thing to do that'll earn real returns. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how to use T-bills or CDs to be able to build some decent income on money that you need access to relatively quickly, and you can ladder it in a way that'll build some decent returns for you and have that money be accessible for you. Most firefighters have a fair amount of money sitting in a savings account with earning an interest of anywhere from 0.01 to 0.05 if the bank is feeling generous, right? But that money is losing value over time simply because of inflation. The reality is we do need liquidity for short-term goals. We need access to that money for those. But if it's a decent amount of money sitting in there, we don't want that money losing value over time being eroded by inflation over time. So if we take a comparison between a typical savings account and then CDs or T-bills, the typical savings account interests are anywhere from 0.01 to 0.5%. Not much interest at all. But the CDs and T-bills end up going up to 4 or 5% depending on the rates that you get. Bottom line, they're safe and they're a pretty easy way of earning a decent interest rate for money you need access to right now. So I mentioned the term ladder. And a ladder is basically using different terms like a 3-month or a 6-month or a 12-month term staggered throughout the course of that. So different money becomes available at different times. Or you can use a ladder in a way that's using the same fraction of time, but you just start them later. So if you had 4 or 8 week terms, you say, hey, well, week number 1, I'm going to do a 4-week. And then the second week, I do another 4-week, and so on and so forth. And at the end of that 4-week period, you'll have money start cycling through and available to use. The great thing about it is you can either use it at that time that you want it, or you just have it automatically set up so it keeps investing. So T-bills and CDs both have variable interest rates depending on what the Fed, it's all based on what the Fed is setting. So some of those rates now are better than what they have been in the past, but they're always changing. Generally speaking, though, these rates are going to always be better than what you're going to have in a normal bank savings account. Let's go through a 4-step action plan on how to set up a ladder for yourself. Number 1, decide how much to ladder. So use money that you won't need from anywhere from 3 to 12 months. And examples of something like this would be if you're going to be buying a new vehicle, a wedding fund, maybe a down payment on a house you've already got most of that money set up for, but you don't need it right now. It'd be a good time frame to set up the ladder. Number 2, choose the tool in which you're going to use, either a T-bill or CDs. So let's talk about a T-bill. A T-bill or treasury bill is basically loaning the federal government money, and they are agreeing to pay you that money back at a certain interest rate over a certain period of time. So the different periods of times that they have are 4, 8, 13, 17, 26, and 52-week periods of time. Each one of those has a different interest rate on it. The longer they have it, typically, the higher the interest rate they're going to use to pay you back. You can buy a T-bill through a brokerage like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, or you can buy it online at treasurydirect.com. Let's talk about CDs. So CD stands for Certificate of Deposit. This is the private equivalent of a T-bill or a treasury bill. So a CD is something you do through your own private bank, something that's FDIC insured. The terms on these are anywhere from 3 to 60 months, so up to 5 years. Same thing, you're basically giving the money to your bank, and they are holding on to that and agreeing to pay you a certain amount of interest whenever that period of time is due. So the longer they have the money for you, typically the higher the rate they're going to give it back. The downside about that is the more that they have your money for them, you don't have access to that money. Now, CDs or T-bills generally have a certain penalty or something if you want to take your money back in early ahead of time. You're not going to be able to recuperate the same amount of costs. Number 3, build a ladder. A real ladder means you're taking the entire chunk of money and you're splitting it up into smaller pieces. And then you're rolling those over in those different terms to be able to get the recuperated funds at a certain given period of time. So let's take a look at an example we could create with a T-bill ladder. So let's say we had $24,000 and we wanted to do 8-week T-bills. We take that $24,000 and we divide it by 8. It gives us $3,000. Okay. We take that $3,000 and once per every week, we're going to invest $3,000. So for week number 1, we're going to do an 8-week T-bill for $3,000. The beginning of the next week, week number 2, we're going to do another 8-week T-bill for $3,000. So on and so forth until you've done that every week for 8 weeks. Now, after that 8-week period or 2-month period, every week, one of those $3,000 bills will basically be given back to you. And you can do that on a rolling or rotating schedule. So you can do it to where you set it up and you're investing that $24,000, but you have access to $3,000 of it every week for over an 8-week period. What this does is it basically gives access to that money once a week over an 8-week period. So you have access to 1/8 of that money over the 8-week period. So the value of this is you have liquidity, right? Access to that money once every 8 weeks. It's US backed because it's a T-bill from the US Treasury, so it's very, very secure. It's very unlikely that the US government's going to go bankrupt. And then the other advantage of that is you're getting a decent return on it, maybe around 5% to that, versus having a very small percentage from a normal savings account that you have. So what we can do when we use these ladders is once every CD or T-bill, you can set it up the same exact way. Once they mature or the money is due back to you with your interest on there, you can either determine, hey, I want to keep that money and spend it on something, or move it over somewhere else so I can spend it right away. Or you just let it roll over constantly and you keep getting those returns. Number 4, automate the rollover system. So many brokerages allow you to automatically renew or roll over your T-bills or your CDs simply by setting up it in your settings portion of that. So short-term money shouldn't be risky, but it also shouldn't be sitting there idle, losing value through inflation. So T-bills and CDs are a great way of getting a decent return on that money that you would need, relatively accessible, and you have a steady stream of that, especially if you set up a ladder system or a rollover. You have steady income coming in from it, and you have access to that money when you need it for those items in that short term. Let's go through some common questions. Are T-bills safe? They're very safe. It's backed by the US government, so it's extremely safe. Can I lose money? Well, you can lose money by withdrawing early and having certain penalties that your bank or the brokerage may impose on you based on what the terms of that agreement are. Where do I buy them? You can buy them through your brokerage like Schwab or Fidelity, or you can buy Treasury direct from the Treasury. Are these better than a savings account? I'd say absolutely. The only thing you're giving up really is that immediate access to that money. But if you set it up in a way to where you can access part of it over a certain periods of time, it's definitely better for you. And it's much better in the fact that you're actually recuperating some of that interest on there instead of letting that money just get watered down over time. So T-bills and CDs are a very simple, effective way of earning a decent return on some of your short-term money that you have. So don't let your money sit in a savings account getting watered over time. Look into this and see if it's right for you. Download the quick guide for T-bills and CDs in the description below. Thanks for joining me on Finance for Firefighters. Appreciate your time. Hope you guys have a good shift. Thumbs up if you like it, comments below. See you guys in the next one.